So I'm going to show you how to solder a very, very thin band onto very small bezel. This is a 2mm bezel that I made. It's for a round stone. Now I made this one open back just because I probably won't actually be using it for a ring. It's just to show you. I usually close that up. So we're going to take this, it's about a 1mm band on a 2mm bezel cup. And I'm going to show you how to do that, how to solder this on with the third hand, and then flat solder. So you may have wire or paste. I don't know how to help you with the paste. I've never used that before, but if you have wire solder, you can just kind of hammer it flat and cut off little pieces. It's going to be a lot easier for you because you need some very small solder for this. So the first thing that I do to actually start the soldering process after I've made the bezel cup and the band for the ring is I just kind of set it up. Looks a little better. I've already done this, but you obviously should make sure that the band is very nicely filed before you do this so that it fits pretty well. What you want it to do is to have the bezel cup held in by the band without using any special methods before you actually solder it. It's going to make things a whole lot easier for you. Okay. I kind of want it to be perfect, so bear with me. Okay. That looks pretty good. I don't know if you can see that. It looks pretty flush all the way across the bottom. Of course, I'm going to go in and file that, I'm going to smooth it out with my little rotary tool. But I want it to be as perfect as I can get it before I actually put solder on it. And then I like to check it this way. Make sure that it's straight. I might have to go back and do this again. Sometimes it gets knocked out of place when I put it in the third hand tweezers. This takes a lot of patience. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I've got these tweezers set up, and I do this for pretty much every ring that I make with a setting like this, because I typically do not put the setting on top of the band. I usually do it coming out of the sides like this, so I'm just going to get down here and take a look. Flip this over and use a smooth part. Something a little bit bigger, it's not too hard to find a smooth part on my block here, but this little one is, I'm just going to start. Usually I let the flux do its bubbling and all of that before I put the solder on, because it tends to knock the solder out of place. And if I see I don't know if this is like correct or not. I usually put some flux on there when it's hot if I see a little spot that's not done correctly. Like there's not enough in there. And that's where I get it all over my block. But it just gives me a little bit of peace of mind when I'm doing it, I guess. Alright, so there's that. And I did the bezel cup in, you probably shouldn't touch that, it's a little bit warm, but I did the bezel cup in hard solder, which is, I pretty much do hard solder for everything. That's a very small piece of solder I just put on there. I'll show you another one. I don't have one that's quite the right. Oh, that one's good. So this is about the size I'm using. It's really small. No more than the thickness of the band. This one's a little bit big, but it won't glob. It won't do that organic looking glob of solder on the top. It's like playing Operation. Okay. That looks pretty good. So I've got 2 pieces of solder on there right on the joint. Pretty small pieces, about the thickness of the band. So I'm going to solder these on, and hopefully the flame doesn't cause the solder to fly off. Sometimes when the solder is really, really small, it'll fly off just from the flame blowing on it, so let's give her a shot. With the third hand, I usually start right at the top, the part above the steel, because it heats up the tweezers too, and that helps. I don't know, it seems to work better for me. It stops the metal from expanding so much. Alright. Sometimes the band will expand and then it'll drop the setting, and that is really not good. Oh, there it went. Alright. I don't know if you saw that, but the solder flowed. It looks like there was plenty of it, but not too much. So there we go. That is not bad. Don't mind the ring. It's not completely round yet. I was going to do that afterwards. So yeah, it looks like there was just enough solder, and we got it to flow, and we didn't melt the seams on my bezel cup. So I would say that's a success.